wonder what Vince Neil would sound like if he was a black belt in Taekwondo? What about what his favorite McDonald's menu item is? Just hold the pickles. This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on this episode, it is Creed singer Scott Stapp. He has a new solo album out called The Space Between the Shadows, and his new single, Survivor, is the most added at BDS this week. So just a lot of great stuff going on in Scott's career and Scott's life. We talk about it all, from him being a baseball coach to being a dad to being, to MusiCares, to the different charities that he's involved with. In fact, I'm just gonna get into the episode. I really rather just listen to the interview. So here is the one, the only, the formidable Scott Stapp. We are speaking with singer Scott Stapp. The latest album, The Space Between the Shadows, is available now. In fact, it came out at the end of 2019. The singles are all of them, climbing up the charts. Bonjour, Scott, as we say in Montreal. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, this whole epidemic thing has gotten everybody a little bit confused, but we're hanging on and doing good. Can we just start on the COVID thing with MusiCares? MusiCares has been reaching out to artists and people trying to help them out, and MusiCares, the Grammy thing, has also been very important in your life. Just talk to me a little bit about MusiCares and what they're doing now, but also what they've meant to you in your life.
Well, MusiCares is an amazing organization, and they are there for everyone involved in the music community, whether that be a roadie to a tech to the artist, every level, and they're there to provide much needed support and assistance to those in the community. Like right now, with all touring basically being called off, I can't even tell you the countless numbers, probably in the hundreds of thousands of people in the music business,
right. Stagehands,
who work on the road, that are out of jobs, and they're there to provide support. They're there to help if there's medical emergencies. They're there to give financial assistance, and so they're definitely an amazing organization, and they definitely played a huge role in my life with helping me over 5 years ago. In conjunction with my wife Jacqueline, to help get me to the right place and find sobriety. And allow me to be here on the phone with you today, over 5 years sober, and talking about a new record. And so, I owe a lot to MusiCares and just blown away by the work that they do. Not just for the names that people know within the business, but all the people behind the scenes that give me the opportunity to do what I do.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to start with that before we get into the album. So just real quick, and then we'll move on. How did you get involved? Things aren't going so good. Your life is in turmoil. You need this, you need to get sober. Do you just sort of show up at their door and say, I'm here? How does the process work?
Well, my situation was that they reached out to my wife, and I think she had kind of put the word out to a few friends that does anyone have any? I want to help my husband, and it got to MusiCares, and they reached out to her, and then together between my wife and MusiCares, they caught me during a moment of clarity, and then I was like, yeah, man, just tell me where to go, tell me where to meet. And I got into a treatment center, and my journey in sobriety began. But for those that have different situations, you can just look them up online, and they have contact numbers You can contact them through their website or via phone. No matter what your need is, like I said, it's much more than just helping, artists or people in the community that have, addiction or alcohol issues. It could be dental work. It could be ER visits. Anything to help assist the music community, they're there for, and their lines are open for you to reach out and ask for the help that you need, and they'll provide it.
Yeah, and it's a great place, and I'll just quickly plug them. It's Grammy.com/MusiCares if you're interested. So Grammy.com/MusiCares. But let's get over to the space between the shadows. Produced in part by Marty Fredrickson, who's of course worked with everybody from Ozzy Osbourne to Carrie Underwood to Daughtry to Aerosmith, Faith Hill. Talk to me about working with Marty, and what does he bring to the table, and how does he sort of round out the sound for you?
Marty's an incredible, not only songwriter, but producer. We started our relationship many years ago, writing songs together, and just collaborating. When it came time to make the new record, I thought I'd take my relationship with Marty and my relationship with songwriter Scott Stevens to the next level. I had heard some stuff that they had produced, and I was like, you know what, man? We have such a tight writing relationship. I think it would do nothing but benefit the album if you guys produced it as well. And they were down. Marty is such a geniusly talented artist and musician. He's a singer himself. He plays drums, he plays guitar, he plays bass, he plays piano. He also is a, producer wizard in terms of all his knowledge of not only the analog gear, but the new modern gear, and how he combines the use of both of those to get the analog sound first and then through the digital platform. Scott Stevens is the same as well. He's a genius and brilliant songwriter, but also mixer, producer, and he brings the same thing to the table. So having those two guys work together, was just a special situation for me, having them as producers. And our friendships were so deep and are still so deep. I knew that they would challenge me. I knew that they weren't just going to accept everything I brought in or everything that I created or everything that I did, and just say, yeah, sure, that's great, let's record it. They checked me, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I know that everything I write is not good. You know that after writing your first record, when you look at all the songs that didn't make the album, and that should be a wake-up call to young artists to stay humble about their own work. And so when I went into this situation, I knew that there was going to be a push and a pull. I knew that them as not only producers but also writers, and at the caliber of writers that they are, that they were going to challenge my writing, and they were going to push me to elevate my game. They were going to, come back at me with different ideas. They were going to say, hey, I think you can beat that. Go back here. Hey, I'm not liking that chord change, or hey, I got this idea for this change. What do you think about that? It was just a real kind of like a band. We called ourselves the Four Horsemen. Zach Malloy from the Nixons was also a part of our team. We called ourselves the Four Horsemen, and we were a band in there, and we were really challenging each other and going back and forth and really pushing each other hard. And so everyone had a role, and everyone brought what they were best at to the table. And I'm really proud of the work that we did together.
Yeah, and by the way, Zach is great. I'm longtime friends with the drummer John Humphreys from that band. But and of course Zach Stevens, did work with Shinedown, Hailstorm, Skillet, and a bunch of others. So let me talk about the writing of The Space Between the Shadows, because here you are, you've done MusiCare. It's been 6 years since the last album. You're coaching Little League Baseball. You know, you're not known as Scott Stapp, the rock star. You're Mr. Coach, or your coach, Coach Stapp. Going into it, are you thinking, okay, I've got to go back to what Creed was doing, and I've got to go? How do you sort of come up with these compositions? Are they brand new, all inspired by what you've gone through, or is it like, hey, I've had these demos from 1998, I might as well just talk to me about what was sort of the purpose going into the album, or how did you come up with it?
It's all brand new. You know, I took a solid 2 years early in my sobriety to really step away from touring, from music, and really focus on, you know, getting solid footing in this new way of life, getting, you know, reconnected in a new way with my family. And I think, in my opinion, some artists and other people who initially get sober, you know, they think that jumping right back into their life is going to be beneficial. I found that in the past, because there were many start and stops along the way before I found sobriety, so I knew this time I had to do it different. And in the past, I would, you know, start off, get sober, and then jump right into, you know, my...
We had a brief interruption there, but I will let Scott explain, and let us get right back to this interview.
Yeah, my ear pods died. Sorry.
The joy of modern technology, but all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so go ahead.
I don't know where we left off.
Well, okay, so let me just give you a new question, and we can get back to it, because we were talking about how you sort of came up with the album, but and you were talking about, you know, you took 2 years and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and then about at the end of that 2 years, I started feeling this creative surge again, and started getting ideas. And I never look at the past, and never have, when I'm going into a new record. It's always fresh. It's always new. And I'm never thinking I've got to sound like this, or I've got to, you know, stick to this specific deal. No, it's just all about what I feel in the moment, and what comes out that day, and if it moves me, even if it's completely different. I think if you listen to my last 2 solo records, you'll see I go from, you know, some of these really heavy, aggressive, guitar-driven rock songs to songs that are, you know, piano, to songs that have pop beats and synth. You know, so never reflecting and trying to sound like anything I've done before. I'm just in the moment and in the now. And so, you know, I called the guys up, like I said, and said, listen, let's do this. And they were down, and we got together, started writing and recording, and you know, the album was born.
It's a great album. So let me talk also a little bit about touring, because we are in this weird period where there are no tours. You do have some European dates lined up for the fall. At this point, we don't know if they're going to happen or not, but how do you make the adjustment for yourself going back into sort of the rock star lifestyle? I mean, you're Mr. Coach. You've got Jacqueline. You've adapted to being sort of a stay-at-home father with the 3 kids and the whole thing. Is there any fear that as you start touring, and you did some touring, of course, in the fall, but as you start doing more touring and you start getting back on the road, is there a fear that you might lose the sobriety? Is there a fear that you might displace the family unit? Any fears at all, or is it like, no, I'm at a good place where I've learned how to balance everything?
No, you know what? Not at all. I've toured consistently from 2016, you know, all the way up until the end of last year. And so, you know, it's something that I've done for, you know, decades prior to that. And so it's just like picking up and riding a bike. The only thing is I changed some things. I create a sober environment backstage, sober environment on my bus. And I'm very fortunate that my band, they're all into health and fitness and working out. And so I've surrounded myself with people that their lifestyle supports the lifestyle I'm trying to lead. And my wife is so amazing on balance. And fortunately at this stage in my career, I can balance my own schedule and make sure that I'm, constantly staying connected with my kids and my family, and plan my touring around key months that I need to be home and be a dad, so I can continue to coach my son, and I can continue to create music and record music with my daughter, and continue to play with my toddler and be a dad to him. My wife is back and forth. The kids, we have a family rule. We never go more than 7 days without seeing each other. And so, the kids will come out, even if it's just, for a Friday afternoon through, Sunday night. We're all together. We're all holed up in one hotel room and just loving each other and spending time together and getting out in whatever city we're touring in and doing family stuff. And so, we've really figured out over the years how to keep that balance and how to keep it healthy. I think there's a different definition of what a rock star is when you're in your early 20s than when you're 20 plus years in the game. Right now it's all about just entertaining my fans, getting on stage and bringing it every night, connecting with the audience, feeling it and appreciating that I have been given this gift to be able to live and breathe music as a job and as a career. And that's where my mind is now. And so that rock star as what the cliche would be, that died a while ago. And so, during that hour and a half, 2 hours I'm on stage, I can't help what the music creates and brings out of me. And so call that rock star me. But right when I get off that stage, I'm right back to, the friend, the husband, and the father that I am when I'm off stage.
Yeah, that's great. Now, of course, Survivor is the latest single. We had Purpose for the Pain before. Talk to me a little bit about the making of the album in terms of moving forward. It took 6 years to get this one out. Do you want to get back on the horse and sort of have one out next year or in 2 years? Or, has it motivated you in a sense to get back and just be more productive? And I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but how do you sort of see the next album coming out? Is it'll be in 6 years or it'll be maybe next year?
No, right now, my plan, and remember things are always evolving and changing, especially in the world we live in now. But my plan, and what I have set up on the schedule is to, in 2021, early 2021, get back in the studio, write and record a record, and put out a record, either in the summer, fall, or winter of 2021. And so, I like this routine, man. I'm back. I reclaimed my life, in sobriety, and I love what I do. And we've got like I said, we've got the right balance. And I just want to keep making music and putting out records. I almost feel like I've got to make up for lost time. There's a part of me that feels that way. And I'm so full of ideas and music and songs that it would be a shame to just not go in and make a record when I have all this material. And so, that's the plan, man, to get back in the studio and follow this record up with another one.
Good. And I have a few more questions, but, you're talking about all these songs and wanting to get them out. you came back and these songs have been hit singles. How important is that to you now that this music not only connects with people, but connects at such a level that it becomes a hit single? Are you at a point where that still matters, or can you just go ahead and just do the music because that's what's more important? So is it more important to get this out, or is it more important that it charts? And if it doesn't chart, oh my God, it's the end of the world.
Well, it's never the end of the world if it doesn't chart. But what I think my definition of a hit single means may be different from the standpoint of, I think when a song is a hit, it means it's gotten mass exposure and it's connected with a lot of people. And that's my goal with my music, and it has been since I started writing songs with Creed in 1995. That was, I want my music to be heard and connect with as many people as possible. And in order for it to do that, it has to have success at certain places. Radio being one of them, streaming being another now. But still, terrestrial radio in rock drives success. It drives awareness of your song. And so although I don't base my success on chart numbers and chart positions, I can't lie and say I don't want success there, because like I said, I want my songs to connect with as many people as possible. And right now that's the best way for it to happen.
Yep. And it feels good too. It feels good.
Yeah, I mean, it does. But it's, you have a different mindset 20 years into the game than you do in your 20s. It's a different perception of what it is. I think, back in the day, it was an ego thing, and a self affirmation or a self, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, okay. Let me put it this way.
Kind of
Do you find yourself
you see
20
what I
years?
mean?
Yeah. Do you find yourself 20 years ago being more of a selfish artist where it was all about me? And now, as you've moved on, because now you're doing ChildFund International, you're talking about MusiCares. It seems to be about other people now. Is that sort of one of the big changes?
Yeah, most definitely. I think a lot of people, not just musicians and artists, but a lot of people in their early 20s are all about me, all about themselves. I'm not going to say everybody, but I think a lot. So I think it's common in whatever field you're in, but especially, being a quote unquote rock star. And it was, and that can affect not only the closest relationships around you, but your worldview and what you pride yourself in. And so 20 years later, my perspective has definitely changed, and it's not all about me. And so most definitely, partnering with ChildFund and other nonprofits, to help children all over this world and right here in our own backyard in America is very important to me. It makes it big. It makes it so much bigger than me. And my fans have really just been amazing in how they've latched on and contributed to this cause and to helping these children who have no future and are born into some of the most impoverished situations I've ever seen in my life, and that just need a chance. And so, most definitely, to answer your question,
Yep.
Your perspective does change.
It really does. And I'll just remind folks, you can check out childfund.org, but on their site, it says, lead singer of Creed, Scott Stapp, devotes himself to helping underprivileged children. So I just want to take up that moniker there where it says lead singer of Creed. And we haven't spoken about Creed at all because it's not a Creed interview, but are you still the lead singer of Creed, or is that now something that you can move away from?
I am still the lead singer of Creed, and will always be the lead singer of Creed if Creed puts out a record or goes on tour. They're, with agreements we made years ago in our 20s, there can never be another guitar player or another singer if the band is to have the name Creed. And so Creed can never be Creed without Mark Tremonti and Scott Stapp.
See, that's smart, because there's been 2 warrants and 2 LA Guns and 2 Quiet Riots, and we don't need 2 Creeds.
Yeah, and so that's why it's always funny when I see interviews and articles where they're like, former Creed lead singer. I can never be the former Creed lead singer. If there's going to be anything done with Creed moving forward, it has to be with me, and it has to be with Mark. I love Scott and Brian too. And so, unless, there were health issues, I would definitely want them involved as well, and it to be the original members. So, who knows, that even though, I'm focused on my solo career, I love those guys, and we have a positive relationship at this point in our lives, and who knows what the future holds with that. But, right now I am focused on my solo career and what the future holds in that.
Yeah, and listen, it seems to be a bright future, because you put out the album, you've got hit singles, you've got people doing interviews, there's an interest from the public, you've been touring. I mean, what else could you ask for at this point? Seriously, what else could you ask for?
Nothing, man. I mean, I've got a healthy family, an amazing wife, and amazing kids, and then, like you just summed it up, in terms of what's going on for me in my career musically. And I'm a very grateful and humbled man by the life that I've been given, and feel very blessed.
And you should be. And on that, Scott, I'll say thank you so much. The first time I spoke to you was an absolute pleasure. This time has been an absolute pleasure. And of course, should you ever come to Montreal, it'll be my pleasure to interview you again, show you around town, whatever you need, because I love what you're doing. And I think the new album, The Space, I keep saying space, but The Space Between the Shadows, is just really a solid, cohesive, I think that's the important word. It's a cohesive album, and fans have been loving it. And I think if you haven't heard it yet, you will love it. So go check it out. Merci, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mitch. And hey, we are looking forward to getting in to Canada and doing a Canadian run. This pandemic has kind of put everything on hold, but I want all the Canadian fans out there to know that we've heard you online, and we were planning, but everything is on hold right now, but we haven't forgotten about you, and we'll be there.
Thank you, sir. And folks, do check out The Space Between the Shadows. It is a great, great disc. Merci, monsieur. Thank you. Bonsoir.
Thank you. Bonsoir.
All right.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.